Well guys, it's time for yet another new Triumph motorcycle. I had to bring out my race spec 675R to celebrate the good news. There's a brand new, most powerful 3-cylinder motorcycle ever produced in the form of the Triumph Speed Triple RS, the 2021 model. It's all new, it's brand spanking, refresh, redesign, a revolution as Triumph says. There's a lot to talk about this motorcycle. I'm really excited about it for a lot of different reasons. Not only for the fact that you guys know that I'm a dedicated Triumph simp. I love Triumph motorcycles, they're fantastic. But let's talk about it today. Let's talk about why it's important, dive into some of the relevant specifications of this machine, and then what I think of it. Let's get started. All right, so in case you did not know, Triumph does make a hyper naked-ish motorcycle in the form of the Speed Triple. It's been quite long in the tooth up until this point. It hasn't been updated for a long time, and the reason I never brought it up when we were talking about bikes like the MT-10, the Tuono, the hyper nakeds of the world, the Super Duke, all those motorcycles, is because it just wasn't really that competitive. It was really heavy for the category. It wasn't that powerful for the category, but all of that has changed now. So the new Triumph Speed Triple, I keep wanting to call it a street triple, it's a brand new bike, which is really cool, and Triumph finally has an entrant in the hyper naked category that makes a lot of sense. So upon first impression on the styling, because everyone wants to talk about styling first when it comes to the bike, I think they nailed it. This bike looks really sweet. It still resembles a Speed Triple. The Speed Triples are always known for their very muscular, beefy stance. Ever since the first one came out in 1994, they've always been this kind of very stocky, stubby, strong looking kind of bike. And upon looking at this thing, it still retains a single-sided swing arm. It's got the dual disc headlights up front, but now they've been updated and modernized to fit with the new Triumph design language, kind of like the Street Triple. And it's a really sharp looking bike. I like how on the tank, they're doing the RS logo, kind of like the Trident has on the tank as well. Got some cool graphics on here. And they're only selling it as an RS variant too, which means they are serious about its business. The one thing that has changed on this motorcycle that I'm a little sad about, but I know why it's changed, is the original Speed Triple had these big undertail exhaust pipes, but those are kind of like really mid-2000s spec, and for mass centralization and reduction in weight, you really don't want that much piping going out to the tail. So instead, it's got a big can at the bottom now, which I'm sure aftermarket manufacturers are going to fit up some really cool systems to it as well. But I think they knocked it out of the park. I don't think this styling is going to be very controversial to anyone, but I also don't think it's super radical to attract a ton of attention. I think that's the one thing that they did a little bit of disservice on. But to be honest, Triumph is a bit of a conservative company when it comes to their styling and their types of bikes. Look at the Trident, look at the Street Triples, look at the new Speed Triple, their Bonnevilles. They make classy, good-looking bikes that anyone would be proud to ride and enjoy. So let's get into the specs on this machine because there's a lot to talk about. The new Triumph Speed Triple, the 2021 RS model, comes with a brand new, from the ground up, completely new engine. It's an 1160cc 3-cylinder engine making 180 horsepower and 92 foot-pounds of torque with about an 11,000 RPM rev limit. Now, I'll have my editor put in a couple sound clips right in here of the new engine sound. I'll have you take a listen. And the thing I'm noticing upon hearing this from the press release is this motorcycle revs up really fast. It just zoots up to the red line extremely quickly, which is what you'd expect out of a triple making 180 horsepower, which is the most powerful engine that Triumph has produced in terms of top peak power. I'm almost positive that is correct. The Rocket 3 was their big flagship engine for a while there, but this triple I think makes more peak power than the Rocket 3. It's got a bi-directional quick shifter as standard as well, as we come to expect in the hyper naked category. To be honest, after trying it on the 765 Daytona Moto 2 Edition bike, I don't really love Triumph's bi-directional quick shifters, which makes me really sad because I love the quick shifter that's on this motorcycle, my race bike. I feel like it works really well and engages really positively, but the new bi-directional quick shifters they're using are kind of squishy and they're not really tactile, and it seems like they don't love giving you very aggressive downshift, so that is a bit of a bummer. I wish that they would just, you know, maybe update their bidirectional quick shifters a bit, or just give you the option of just a single up quick shift. But then you know that everyone would complain that it doesn't have a bidirectional quick shifter, and oh my god, what are we gonna do? But anyways, it's got a brand new 5-inch TFT display as well, carrying over from the Tiger line of bikes, a big fancy TFT display. It's going to be featuring a speed triple specific software on there. It's got your fancy IMUs, all the other cool stuff, all the electronics you could want. Brembo stylomic calipers up front, which is pretty sweet. Öhlins front and rear, which is something that Triumph is known for. They have a deal with Öhlins. My bike over here came with Öhlins from the factory. Lots of different machines on the Triumph floor carry Öhlins, all the way from the Speed Twins to the Street Triple RS. All those kinds of bikes have Öhlins on them. And on those Öhlins, you get the NIX 30 upside down forks and the TTX 36 at the rear. That is a very solid sort of mid-level Öhlins. You're not getting like MotoGP race technology on your front forks on your Speed Triple, obviously, but they are pretty good. It's 437 pounds ready to ride, according to Triumph, which is awesome. They usually claim dry weights, which is really annoying, but 437 pounds is pretty damn light in the hyper naked category. And in looking at photos of this motorcycle, it looks very compact and small. And with that kind of power and torque, this thing ought to be just an absolute riot to ride. The important thing here as well is this motorcycle is going to cost $18,300 on the showroom floor. And while a lot of you might think that is a very expensive motorcycle, and it is, don't get me wrong, it is kind of in between the prices of maybe like a ZH2 and an MT10. It's basically just about as expensive as a KTM Super Duke 1290R, and that's pretty good. You know, you want to be slotting in right there between that $17,000 to $19,000 price point in the hyper naked category. You don't want to go way above that or way below that, because then it might have people scratching their heads. The MT10 is probably the most budget friendly option in this category at about $13,500 if my memory serves me correctly, but the Triumph is just definitely a more premium option over the MT10. It also makes 20 more horsepower than the MT10. Which is not something I'd ever thought I'd say from Triumph. So what makes it so special or different? So here's the thing. Triumph, like I said, has not been very competitive in this hyper naked market, and it's a market that is expanding every year. Everybody's trying to get in on this. Naked bikes are the thing to be doing nowadays, and it was kind of sad that Triumph Speed Triple was kind of languishing, and now they finally updated it. If they want to be competitive in this marketplace, they have to update that bike to be in line with the rest of the bikes. And they've finally done it. I think this motorcycle fits exactly in the realms of a Super Duke, of an MT10, of a ZH2. It is exactly the right kind of bike for that category. The thing about Triumphs as well that separates them above some other motorcycles, in my opinion at least, is they have a way of going down the road that just feels so refined, so supple. The Street Triple versus an MT09, for example, the Street Triple just handles effortlessly through the corners. It just dives into corners so beautifully. The chassis so composed. The bike handles super, super well. The fueling on Triumphs are really nice too. That's a big place where they're a cut above their competition. And they're just known for a build quality that is a bit more advanced and refined than the other competitors. You just get a nicer kind of fit and finish with the Triumph, in my opinion. It's also the only triple cylinder hyper naked motorcycle. If you want something with an inline 4, you can get the MT10, you can get the ZH2, even though that has a supercharger and it is absolutely ridiculous. But you know, if you want a twin, you get the Super Duke. The BMW has a 4-cylinder as well, the S1000 single R, but the Triumph is the only 3-cylinder hyper naked. That makes it kind of unique in my opinion. And it sounds really nice. I would really love to take a swing over this motorcycle. I think it would be an absolute hoot of a bike to ride. It is, again, like I mentioned, one of the most powerful 3-cylinder motorcycles ever produced, other than the Rocket 3, which obviously makes a ton more torque because it's a way bigger engine. But in terms of peak horsepower numbers, I cannot think of any triple ever being released that had made that kind of power. I can't recall any sort of triple cylinder bike from any manufacturer producing that kind of power. So if someone knows of a production motorcycle, not some fancy one-off build, if you know of a production bike that makes that kind of power, please let me know down in the comments below. So my final take on this is, I think Triumph knocked it out of the park. They didn't do anything super controversial with the bike, which I think is really great and in line with what they're known for doing. They're more of a conservative styled company, more of a conservative type of thing. Still sticking true to that triple cylinder thing all across the range now, from the Trident, Street Triple, Speed Triple, Rocket 3, Tiger. I mean, you've got 5 or 6 different 3-cylinder motorcycles you can buy from Triumph, which is really cool because that is what they are known for. Triumph is definitely the 3-cylinder bike manufacturer, and it all started with stuff like the Street Triple, the Speed Triples, the Daytonas. People loved those bikes, myself included. I absolutely love Triumph's 3-cylinder motorcycles. They are so cool, they are so unique, they sound really, really awesome. They got this cool honking sound, and I'm really excited to see how this Speed Triple is received in the marketplace. I can't imagine people aren't gonna like it very much because it just looks classy, it looks refined, it looks like it's a blast to ride, and it makes an absolute god-smacking amount of horsepower. 180 horsepower, guys, is a ton to fit into a naked bike. That is crazy. And a motorcycle that has an 1160cc triple, that characteristic is gonna blend so well if you like stuff like the Super Duke, if you like stuff like the ZH2. There's no reason you wouldn't like the Speed Triple. I'm curious to see if they have fixed some of the hefty kind of handling that it has. Hope it's a little more agile on the side of the tire. I believe this thing's gonna come equipped and spec'd with some pretty grippy Metzlers from the factory, so we'll see how that handles. What do you guys think? Leave me a comment down below if you would love for me to purchase one of these as a new expert bike giveaway, perhaps. I think they look fantastic. They are really, really sweet bikes. I think the only thing about it that is a bit of a bummer is if you squint, it does look like a Street Triple. I feel like they could have differentiated it just a tad from the Street Triple, maybe given it some sort of flair or aesthetic consideration to make it a little bit different from the little brother triple cylinder naked sport bike. But that's all I got for you guys today. If you like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We put out daily motorcycle videos about all kinds of different topics, track days, adventures, racing, cruisers, anything and everything related to motorcycles. We are constantly putting out fun and high quality videos. We'll catch you on the next one. See you later. You've made it to the end of a Yammie Noob video. Did you like what you saw? Do you want to see more of it? Check it out, right here, just like magic, waiting for you. Click this little square right here. More memes, more Yammie, more of my face. Isn't that great?